Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well and welcome if you're new. Today we have an unhaul, and a big unhaul at that. I've been accumulating this massive pile of books I want to get rid of for ages by my desk now, and a thought just popped into my brain and I was like, I haven't shown you guys these books yet, and it's getting like a reasonable stack of books. So I was like, it's time to do an unhaul. I haven't done an unhaul in 5 months. I've unhauled books here and there without kind of telling you guys, so they've all just been piling up in my bedroom. So today we're going to talk through them. I might not be able to give you like the best descriptions and stuff because some of these books are like really old books I just want to finally get rid of off my shelves, that either I've read and just no longer have interest in, or they're books I just have no longer interested in even if I haven't read them yet. I just want to clear my bookshelves out because I'm in such a reading mood at the minute that I want to just keep buying loads of books, and I keep adding loads of books to my want to read and my Amazon wish list and all these sorts of stuff. So I'm trying to clear up a lot of shelf space. So I've actually cleared out a shelf and a half of books just today, and then on top of that I have an entire pile. So we have over 30 books I'm kind of unhauling and showing you guys today. So without further ado, let's just hop straight into it. In no particular order, the first book I'm unhauling is City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. I've read this book as well as the next two books in the series, City of Glass and City of Ashes. However, if you know me, I am not a fantasy reader. I am obviously much more of a contemporary reader. So therefore, although I enjoyed these first three books, giving them all a 4-star, I think, I just no longer have any interest in reading them. And I just don't feel like I could dedicate my time to reading the rest of the Mortal Instruments, and then the Infernal Devices, and then the one with Chain of Iron, and then the one that has this series in, and then you have that series, and then you have that spin-off series, and I can't dedicate my life to a book series that isn't my typical genre, that I enjoyed but I have no interest in continuing, and there's a lot of shelf space to keep hold of books I'm never going to read. So these books have been read, these three have not been read. Everyone knows what these books are about, but I just no longer have interest in reading them, so they are going in the unhaul pile. Once again, this is like a lucky dip, so in no particular order. The next book I'm going to get rid of is 40 Love by Olivia Dade. I literally just read this and it was featured in my April wrap-up, which was literally my last video. But I just gave this book a 3 stars. It was a fun, cute, contemporary adult romance about our main character Tess Dunn, who, when she goes on holiday with her best friend, her bikini top gets stripped when she's in the ocean, and the only person who can help her is this very, very handsome man, and they start a romance on holiday. It was cute. There was some really good smutty scenes. I enjoyed Tess Dunn's writing. This book just wasn't for me. I am intrigued on picking up more of her work, but there's no point keeping a book that I will never reread. I'm one of those people that on my bookshelves they have to be 4 or 5 stars. Books that I absolutely loved and books I want to reread and books that just bring me comfort and joy when I look at my bookshelves. This, unfortunately, is not one of them. So this is going in the unhaul pile as well. We next have Crank Palace by James Dashner. I'm only getting rid of this because I have 2 copies. I ordered one and my boyfriend also got me one as a present. So I'm keeping the one my boyfriend got me as a present, and it's actually a hardback, whereas this is just a paperback version. I read this back in March or February and I enjoyed it. It's 5.5 in the Maze Runner series by James Dashner, and I enjoyed it. It's all about Newt's story when he separates from the main gang in the main series and what he gets up to. I gave it a 3 stars. Once again, nothing special, and obviously I already have another copy to keep in my Maze Runner collection, which is getting very voluptuous now, so I don't need 2 copies of the same book. We next have An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I read this, I think, in March again. A very recent read, but once again, I gave it a 3 stars. I enjoyed it, but it was nothing special. This is basically a YA kind of mystery contemporary book where our main character April goes for like a midnight walk because she can't sleep, and she finds a massive statue just appear out of nowhere in New York City. She calls her best friend and was like, dude, you have to come film this, because her best friend is into like film and photography and cameras and all that sort of stuff, and they become insta famous overnight, and they track the whereabouts of this massive statue, and you kind of have the mystery on where and why and how, all this sort of stuff that the statue has come to be. I enjoyed it. I'm never going to reread it. It was alright. We're moving on. The next book is The Gravity of Us by Phil Statmer. I tried reading this book at the end of last year. I can't really remember, but I remember trying to read this book and it just felt very, very young for me. I do love YA. There are some great YA books out there, but I feel like I am slowly getting out of the YA genre, and this one felt like a very young YA, so I never felt inclined to pick it up. Therefore I DNF'd it, and I have kind of no interest in reading it. As far as I'm aware, this book is about two boys. Both of their parents are involved in space and work with like space crews of NASA and stuff, and they come together when they have to move because there's a space mission or something, and they kind of bond over that, I think. I don't know, I can't remember. I'm not fussed. It's a beautiful cover though. I wish I did enjoy it, but I have no inclination to re-pick it up and try again. Now, this next book is very kind of like a little bit bittersweet for me because I'll explain the story, I'll explain it. But that's Year One by Nora Roberts. This was one of the first books I ever bought of my boyfriend. We went into Waterstones on New Year's Eve as like a little treat a couple of years ago now, and I picked this book on a whim, having never heard of it before, and it really, really intrigued me, so I picked it up and read it, and I fell in love with this book. Even thinking about it, I might just keep this like as a standalone for me. If you didn't know, I try and explain this book as it's an X-Men meets The Walking Dead kind of series. This is a trilogy, and this is the first one in said trilogy, and it basically follows a group of people when a kind of virus hits the world. Some people obviously die, some people survive, but the people who survive then get special powers, and it's kind of good versus evil. And I do kind of mix it with X-Men and Walking Dead, because obviously Walking Dead, end of the world sort of adventure craziness, and then X-Men because you have like the special powers, people can fly and have laser eyes and all that sort of stuff. So it's very much like a mix of both. So if you enjoy any of those two, I think you would enjoy this book. However, I read it quite a few years ago. I reread it last year to read the sequel of Blood and Bone, and I enjoyed this one as well, but it's been now a year since I read both of them, and the third one I just have no interest in reading and continuing with the series and wrapping it up. So I'm definitely going to unhaul of Blood and Bone. I may or may not unhaul Year One. I just think it's time, although I really, really enjoyed this book. I don't think I'm ever going to reread it again, and it's taking up space on my bookshelves when I can have other books on there that, I don't know, this one's a tricky one, but I'll definitely be getting rid of Blood and Bone. This one is a maybe, but we'll keep them in the unhaul pile for now. I always keep my unhaul piles for a couple of months, so if I do backtrack on my opinions and my thoughts and I do want to keep a certain book, I can put it back out again and put it on my shelves, but most of the time they all just disappear to other homes, libraries, donation piles, etc, etc. We then have Almost Adults by Ali Petoni, and this has been the worst book I've read so far in 2021. I read it back in January, I want to say, because me and Em from Little Red M hosted the Recommendations Readathon, where we recommended books to everyone else who was participating. They recommended books to us. It was a really cute like weekend readathon where we just kind of like got together as a community and read books that other people had recommended. And this was recommended to me because I love Olive by Emma Gannon. However, this one just fell flat. I gave it 2 stars. I had no care in the world about the characters, what they got up to. But it basically follows 4 main characters, and they're all in their like late 20s, and they're all moving out for the first time. They're all kind of dealing with life and trying to be adults for the first time, and I didn't connect to it. I didn't care for it. It got 2 stars. If you want a book with 4 women main characters, kind of figuring out life, love wasn't involved, but it's all about friendship, I recommend Olive by Emma Gannon instead of Almost Adults by Ali Petoni. Just personal preference, but this one is definitely going in an unhaul pile. One of the lowest rated books I've rated in a while. We then have 4 books by the same author, because back when I started reading and getting into reading, I really, really enjoyed this author, and I still do enjoy this author, just not this series from this author, and that author is Marian keys. I'll hold them the other way around, but they look pretty together minus this one, and I've been keeping them for ages. I have read all of them. No, I haven't. That's a lie. I haven't read anybody out there, but this is basically a entire series, companion series, about 5 sisters, and each book follows a different sister, and I did enjoy them when I read them. However, when I reread Angels by Marian Keyes, which is the book that got me into reading, it's part of the same series if you couldn't tell, I hated it. But I'm keeping it because it was the book that got me into reading, and clearly back when I got into reading when I was 17, I enjoyed this book, and I want to keep it for the memory and for the fact that it got me into reading. However, I have no interest in keeping the rest of the series, so we are unhauling them. However, I still do have some Marian Keyes on my bookshelves because I do enjoy her later releases, but these are all like mid-2000, early 2010 books, and I don't have great memories of reading them. They don't spark joy and all that sort of stuff, so in the unhaul pile they go. I just love unhauling. It's just like a weight's just being lifted off your shoulder. You can just add new books that you're really excited for and get rid of the ones that don't spark joy anymore. It's brilliant. The next book I'm getting rid of is On the Other Side by Carrie Hope Fletcher. If you know me, I love the Fletchers. Tom and G Fletcher are some of my favourite people on the planet, some of my favourite authors. However, Carrie Hope Fletcher's works just don't do it for me. I thought I could have a hat trick with loving Carrie Hope Fletcher's works as well, but that unfortunately is not the case. I've tried to read this 3 times now and I can't get past like chapter 4, so I just don't think this book is for me, and there's no point keeping it anymore and trying to maybe one day read it because I know that will never happen. So in the unhaul pile it goes. Basically this follows our main character Evie Snow, and when she slowly passes away, she doesn't physically pass away, she goes back to her old flat and she has to figure out things that didn't quite go right in her life. She has to right the wrongs, enabled to kind of pass through the door to heaven and officially die. And just, it sounds like a cool concept, but I just can't get into the writing style, I can't get into the story, and I have tried multiple times, but I think it's time to let this book go. We then have Every Day by David Levithan. I read this book last year for a readathon prompt, and the movie, this is a book to movie adaptation by the way, and the movie is so good. I highly recommend you check out the movie rather than the book, unfortunately. I just don't think the idea was executed properly in the story, but it was executed well in the film. Basically this follows our main character who changes bodies every single day. You never get an answer to that, and I think that's why it aggs me the most, because you don't get an answer to why this weird thing happens to this one person in the entire world, that they change body every single day and they change personality in a certain radius, so they always go to the same school, etc. They always change into a body of a person in the same age range, and one day they're the body of Justin, which is Rhiannon's girlfriend, and he starts to fall in love with her, and as they change body every day he has to try and figure out how to keep hold of Rhiannon. And yeah, it's an interesting concept. The execution in the book just didn't do it for me, and it was like a 2.5 stars I think, so definitely in the unhaul pile it goes. We then have An Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson. Morgan Matson I feel like was really hyped back on BookTube when I first kind of discovered it back in 2015-16, and I have read some of her books and I do really enjoy some of her books. One of my favourite books of all time is A Second Chance Summer. This bad boy, one of the first books that ever made me cry. I love it, I've reread it, I still enjoy it. My camera battery's dying, no. But I've tried to read this book multiple times and it just doesn't grasp me at all. It basically follows a main character who has his internship lined up, and then her father is like a politician and he does something wrong, so the internship no longer want her, so she has to become a dog walker for the summer. And then I think there's a romance in some aspect, and it sounded cute, but I'm just no longer a Morgan Matson fan, unfortunately, apart from A Second Chance Summer. So yeah, it's going in the unhaul pile. A collection of 3 books that I loved when I first read them, and I will always really enjoy them, but there's no point in me keeping them anymore. And that is the Girl Online series by Zoe Sugg. I read this book way back in like 2016 and fell in love with it, but I just don't care for it anymore. This basically is pretty much Zoe's life, especially the first one. Our main character Penny has anxiety and she has this blog and she gets famous, but she's anonymous, and this blog kind of blows up and she has a romance because of it. So yeah, and the trilogy just kind of continues on from the first book. It was cute, it was fun, I enjoyed it when I read it back when I was like 17, but I'm now obviously like 24 and I just no longer have any interest in keeping these 3. We then have Beautiful Broken Things by Sarah Bernard. Sorry Chloe, but this book got like a 2 stars. I really hated it. The only Sarah Bernard book, because I have read most of her books, the only one I've enjoyed is A Quiet Kind of Thunder. Because A Quiet Kind of Thunder was the first book I read of hers, I was like, oh my god, I have to read the rest of them. So I read the rest of them that were already out when I kind of had this revelation. Sorry, I don't know where I was, my camera battery died. But yeah, I just had no interest in keeping this book anymore because I didn't enjoy it. I can't even remember what this is about. It's going in the unhaul pile, because I have changed my camera battery, but this battery is also very low. So we'll move swiftly on. We're almost there anyway. So the next one I'm unhauling is The Paper Hearts and Society by Lucy Powery. She is a book blogger and I was really excited when this book came out, so I purchased it, and this is actually signed. and I took it to Disney in 2019. It was like my plain book, but I never read it, and then I got to Disney and everything just went chaotic, so I never had time to read. I can't believe I ever thought about bringing books with me on my cultural exchange program, because who the hell would read in Disney? Like, you have so many other exciting things to do than read in Disney. So although this book has like quite a cool memory, because it's the only book I took to Walt Disney World for my summer in Walt Disney World in 2019, I took so long to get through it. I took like 5 months to get through it. By the time I finished it, I was just so relieved to have finished it. So therefore, this could be a brilliant book, and I'm sure it is. But for me, it just didn't do the trick. I didn't really enjoy it that much. This book basically follows our group of friends who start a book club, and they go on bookish adventures about Jane Austen and all this sort of stuff. And it is a really fun book, like the concept, but it just didn't do it for me. So yeah, there we have that one. We then have Dear Martin by Nick Stone. I enjoyed this book, but it wasn't anything fancy. It's actually really dusty. Did you see that? Lol. This book basically follows our main character, who is in the debate team, and he writes letters to Martin Luther King to get help and advice and stuff. Obviously he wasn't going to reply, but it helps him kind of think through his thoughts and stuff. And I just felt for like a 200-page book, there wasn't enough time to unpack all the topics that Nick Stone tried to address in this. So although it's a great introductory to Black Lives Matter and the kind of racism that black kids get in school and stuff, it just didn't do it for me, and I have other books I prefer that touch upon the same topics, so I'm going to unhaul this one. The next one we have is 7 Days of Us by Francesca Hornack. I brought this as part of my Christmas book shopping video. This book basically follows a family of 4. One of their daughters is a doctor, and she goes abroad to deal with an epidemic. And so when she returns around Christmas, the entire family have to isolate. So it's it very much hit home, but this kind of virus is more similar to Ebola rather than COVID. I could kind of distinguish between the two. And I did enjoy it, and I enjoyed the characters, but I'm never gonna reread it. I'm never gonna wanna pick it up again. Like, it was a one-time enjoyable story. I think I gave it 3 stars. As you can tell, there's a pattern in this video. If I give a book 3 stars, I most likely will eventually unhaul it. So there we have it. It was a good book, but I don't kind of recommend it. It was alright. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was fine. Oh my god, all the books. All the books fell over. That's how many I have in one stack. The next one we are unhauling is Wonderscape by Jennifer Bell. This is a middle grade adventure fantasy, and if you know me, adventure fantasy is not my typical genre. I don't know why I picked this one up. I just thought it would be like a fun kind of different book for me, and it was enjoyable, but it very much reminded me of Ready Player One with the different levels and the different realms. But all the realms were very much like they'd been done before. There was a car racing realm, and there was a pirate realm. Like, it wasn't original for me, and it wasn't enough to like captivate me, so it was fine. I gave it 3 stars. Moving on. We then have Tinsel by Scribd Pounder, I want to say is her name, but I've probably butchered it. I'm sorry, I'm not great at name pronunciation. But this book was such a cute Christmassy book. But I have other favourite Christmas books that I prefer, i.e. The Christmasaurus by Tom Fletcher, and the 3rd book in that series is coming out this October, so I already have a Christmas book on my TBR to read in December, and I cannot wait. But this book basically follows our main character, who is a horse carriage rider. She's only like 14, but she kind of gets bullied by the guys that also do that back in the day. It's kind of Victorian setting-esque. And then one evening she stumbles upon this girl that she's never met before, and they start having mince pie picnics. But one day she completely vanishes, but she leaves the main character a snow globe, and that snow globe gives her like a vision, and then she ends up in the North Pole and she meets Santa, and adventures ensue, and it's a cute middle grade Christmas book for younger readers, and I enjoyed it for what it was. And I actually really enjoyed the author. She touched upon like plastic and tinsel and how bad it is for the environment, and yeah, it was really cute, but I'm never going to reread it, so I'm going to unhaul it. And then the last 2 books I'm getting rid of is Scythe and The Toll. No, don't worry, I don't hate the series. I just recently, my boyfriend brought me the entire set as hardbacks, American editions of the hardbacks, and I love them to pieces. So I do not need 2 copies of Scythe and 2 copies of The Toll, so I'm getting rid of them. I just want to reread the hardbacks and tab them up because they are one of my favourite series of all time. If you didn't know, Scythe basically follows like a utopian / dystopian world where all natural causes of death have been kind of miracleized and you cannot die of natural causes anymore. So in this world you have people called scythes, and they have to go around and glean people, and yeah, the only way you can die is by a scythe, and it's about 2 apprentices that get taken on by kind of like the biggest scythe there is, and they start to fall for each other. And yeah, it's a brilliant book and I love this series, but I don't need 2 copies, and because I don't have the paperback or Thunderhead either, it just seems weird to keep Scythe and the Toll when I already have like the full set in hardback now. So yeah, that's that. That is my unhaul. Do you want to see the aftermath? Because it's quite chaotic. Like, look. Wow, you're not going to be in the same position or whatsoever, but change of position, that's always fun. But those are all the 30 plus books I'm getting rid of recently because I just want more space on my bookshelves for future books I'm going to buy and love. And like I said, I don't tend to keep books that get a rating lower than a 3 stars because I just don't see the point. Then I'm never going to have the inkling to reread them. They were just fun, enjoyable books for my life at that certain time of reading. And then I move on and I read other better books I want to keep on my shelves, etc. That's the reason why I unhaul books, just because I have limited shelf space and I just want to keep books I love. Like all of these books I love, and all of these books I love, and all of the books over there I love, and these don't spark joy. So we're unhauling, we're clearing out, we're having a clear out, but that's fine because they're going to go to better homes. That's where I was going to lead. If you would like to purchase any of these books, all you have to do is pay for postage. But if you do want to purchase any of these books, let me know in the comments, DM me, and we can sort out postage and all that sort of stuff. We can figure stuff out. So if any of those books that I have talked about you would like my copies, then let me know. But without further ado, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a massive thumbs up. Sorry for the chaotic energy. I've had a day at work and I'm filming this post-work, so yeah. Comment below what you've unhauled recently or books that you think I shouldn't unhaul. Not that I'm going to listen to you, but it'd be interesting to see your thoughts on any of the books I have unhauled, whether you love them, because that's what's great about books and booktube. Everyone has different opinions and it's always interesting to hear other people's opinions. So let me know in the comments down below. And subscribe to my channel to see future videos that are this chaotic: book hauls, reading vlogs, book recommendations, TBR games, and I have it all here. So make sure you subscribe so you never miss any more from me. And without further ado, I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.